Welcome back, you night owls. Tonight we're diving into the warm, humid air of ancient Alexandria, a city of marble and mystery where the Nile spills into the shimmering Mediterranean. Picture yourself standing on the steps of the Great Library, the scent of papyrus and spices thick in the air. The sun beats down on the gleaming Pharos lighthouse, one of the wonders of the ancient world, its light a beacon for ships from every corner of the known globe. You can hear the distant hum of a city that never sleeps, the clatter of chariot wheels on cobblestones, and the polyglot chatter of merchants, sailors, and scholars. This is the world into which you were born, a place of dizzying sophistication and ruthless power struggles. You probably won't survive this story, by the way. I mean, nobody really does. But before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always amazing to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are born in the year 69 BC, into a world that is already crumbling. Your family, the Ptolemaic dynasty, isn't even truly Egyptian. They are Macedonians, descended from one of Alexander the Great's generals, who seized control of Egypt after Alexander's death. For over 300 years, your family has ruled this land, but they've done it by wearing a mask, adopting the customs, the titles, and even the divine attributes of the pharaohs who came before them. You, as a child, watch as your father, Ptolemy XII, also known as Orleats, or the flute player, tries desperately to balance the demands of his own people with the ever-present suffocating pressure from Rome. Your father is a man who would rather lose himself in the rhythms of music than the brutal politics of his court, a weakness the Romans are all too happy to exploit. Your childhood isn't spent running barefoot through sun-drenched fields. Instead, you are raised within the suffocating grandeur of the Alexandrian palace, a gilded cage of opulence and intrigue. The air hums with whispers, and every servant, every tutor, every member of your family is a potential spy. You are one of several children, but you are quickly marked as different. Unlike your sisters, who might be content with palace life, you show an insatiable curiosity. You refuse to be confined to the traditional role of a Ptolemaic princess, destined for an arranged marriage and little else. You are a voracious reader, and the Great Library of Alexandria is your playground. You spend countless hours devouring scrolls, learning about history, philosophy, and mathematics. You are a polyglot, a rare skill for a ruler of your time. While your ancestors learned to speak only Greek and a smattering of Egyptian for ceremonial purposes, you master 8 languages, including the language of the people you rule. This is a crucial, if understated, fact about your future. You can speak directly to your subjects, to your Roman counterparts, to everyone. You don't need a translator, and in a world where communication is power, this makes you uniquely dangerous. Your father's reign is defined by a single terrifying truth. Rome is the hungry wolf at the door. To maintain his shaky grip on the throne, he is forced to send vast sums of money to Roman generals and senators. This constant drain of wealth infuriates the Alexandrian populace, who see their city's resources being squandered to prop up a weak king. You see the resentment brewing, the discontent simmering just beneath the surface of the city's festive veneer. One day you watch from a high window as a mob riots in the streets, protesting your father's policies. You see fear in the eyes of the palace guards and a kind of quiet despair in your father's court. This is not the calm, ordered kingdom you read about in your history scrolls. This is a state on the verge of collapse. Historians still argue whether your father was a complete fool or a pragmatic survivor. He was certainly no general, but he managed to cling to power by any means necessary, including orchestrating the murder of his own daughter, your elder sister, Berenice IV, who had seized the throne from him during one of his exiles. A quirky little tidbit of historical trivia. To help him reclaim his throne, your father sold off some of the family's more peculiar possessions, including, it is said, a famous collection of exotic animals from distant lands, a fact that surely made for a rather dramatic auction. You witness this ruthlessness, this cold-blooded practicality, and you learn a lesson that will shape your entire life. The throne is not a birthright, it is a prize to be fought for, and the rules of the game are utterly unforgiving. Your education isn't just about language and philosophy, it's about survival. You're taught the subtle art of political manoeuvring, how to read a room, and how to command respect. You learn from your mistakes and from the mistakes of those around you. You see your sisters and brothers, and you understand that they are not just siblings but competitors. Your family, for all its shared blood, is a viper's nest, and you are being taught to be the most venomous viper of them all. This is the reality of your childhood. A childhood filled with tutors, not friends, with palace intrigues, not games. You're being groomed for a world where weakness is exploited and strength is the only currency that matters. You learn to hide your true feelings, to project an aura of calm even when your stomach is twisted in knots. You are a princess in name, but in practice you are a political soldier, a living pawn in a game of empires. And the great Roman Empire, with its legions and its insatiable hunger for power, is watching your every move. It's a very dangerous and lonely way to grow up. Your early life, as you now know, is a constant lesson in the art of survival. The Alexandrian palace isn't a home, it's a stage, and you are a performer. Every gesture is scrutinized, every word weighed, and your competitors are closer than you'd like. Your younger sister, Arsinoe, is a particular point of tension. She shares your ambition, but not your intellect or your patience. She watches you with a calculating glint in her eye, and you know, with a certainty that chills you to the bone, that she would seize any opportunity to push you aside. Then there's your younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. He's just a boy, small and impressionable, a puppet waiting for a master to pull his strings, and pull them they will. The palace is a labyrinth of secret passages and hidden doors. You learn to navigate them, not just for convenience, but for safety. You overhear snippets of conversations, whispered plots in courtyards, hushed arguments in antechambers. You learn the names of the Roman senators your father is bribing, the generals he's placating. The weight of this knowledge is immense, a heavy cloak you carry on your small shoulders. You understand that your family's power is a fragile thing, a house of cards built on borrowed time and Roman coin. Your father, Ptolemy XII, continues to alienate his subjects. His relentless appeasement of Rome becomes a national disgrace. He even goes so far as to refuse to intervene when Rome annexes Cyprus, a kingdom ruled by his own brother. This act of cowardice is the final straw for many Alexandrians. The riots intensify, and the city, once a jewel of the ancient world, seems perpetually on the verge of open revolt. You watch as your father, for all his royal titles and divine pretensions, becomes a laughingstock, a monarch clinging to his throne by his fingernails. This is a crucial formative experience for you. You realize that divine right means nothing if the people no longer believe in it, and that a ruler must command respect, not just demand it. You become a student of power, observing not just your father's failures, but also the strategies of those who seek to manipulate him. The most prominent of these is a court eunuch named Pothinus. Pothinus is a man of sharp intellect and boundless ambition. He is your brother Ptolemy XIII's chief advisor, but in reality he is the boy's master. He sees your ambition, your intelligence, and your potential, and he recognizes you as a threat. Pothinus is a master manipulator, a puppeteer in the palace's shadow play. He begins to poison your brother's mind against you, filling the boy's head with lies about your hunger for power and your supposed disloyalty to the family. You feel his influence like a cold hand on your back, a constant silent menace. Historians still argue whether Pothinus was a loyal servant of the dynasty or a self-serving opportunist who saw a chance to rule from behind the throne. What is not in dispute is his effectiveness. He isolates your brother, turning him into a pawn, and works to undermine your every move. You feel the court turning against you, the smiles becoming a little more forced, the conversations growing a little more hushed as you approach. It's a subtle but palpable shift, a social quarantine orchestrated with chilling precision. Amidst this tension, you find an unlikely ally in your education. Your tutors, though hired by your father, are often men of genuine learning, not just sycophants. They teach you not only the facts of history, but the lessons hidden within them. They teach you about Alexander the Great's strategies, the political machinations of the Greek city-states, and the ruthless efficiency of the Roman Republic. You learn to see the world not just as a princess, but as a strategist, a chess player. You read the works of Plato and Aristotle, but you also study the treatises of military commanders. A quirky little fact about your educational regimen. One of your tutors was the astronomer and mathematician Theon of Alexandria, and you often discussed astronomical theories with him. This love for knowledge and science would stay with you your whole life. The political climate in Rome is also in constant flux, and its ripples reach your palace walls. The great generals Pompey the Great and Julius Caesar are locked in a struggle for control of the Republic. Your father, ever the pragmatist, tries to play both sides, sending gold and favours to each. You watch as envoys from both men arrive at your court, their polished rhetoric barely concealing the threats beneath. You are a living barometer for the health of the Roman Republic. The more they squabble, the more precarious your position becomes. You realise that your life, your kingdom, your very identity is not your own. It is a prize in a Roman game, a piece on their board. This constant pressure, this relentless manoeuvring, hardens you. The gentle, bookish girl you might have been is replaced by a young woman of steely resolve. You learn to project an aura of calm and authority, to hide the fear and uncertainty that gnaws at you from within. You know you cannot afford to show weakness. You are a Ptolemy, but you are also, in your own mind, the rightful ruler of Egypt, the daughter of the sun and the moon. You are a living goddess, and you must act like one, even if you feel like a frightened child. As your father's reign nears its end, the whispers in the palace grow louder. The tension becomes unbearable. You know that when he finally dies, the true fight will begin. You will be thrust into a co-regency with your young brother, a boy whose mind has been poisoned against you by your chief rival, Pothinus. Your sister, Arsinoe, will be waiting in the wings, ready to exploit any misstep you make. The stage is set for a family drama of epic proportions, and you're not just a spectator. You are the lead actor. You're preparing to step into the role of a queen, but you know, with the cold clarity of a strategist, that it is a role that could very well be your last. You are alone, and you are surrounded by enemies, and your only real strength is the knowledge you have secretly amassed, and the iron will you have forged in this house of whispers. Your father, Ptolemy XII, finally succumbs to illness in 51 BC. You are 18 years old, a young woman who has spent her entire life preparing for this moment. His death, while a cause for grief in the royal family, is also a release. The charade is over. The time for whispers and shadows has passed. The time for action has arrived. According to your father's will, you are to rule alongside your younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. He is just 10 years old, a boy king with a child's face and an old man's advisors. His coronation is a grand, solemn affair. The priests proclaim you both as living gods, the new Osiris and Isis, the new rulers of a land that is desperately in need of strong leadership. You are no longer just a princess. You are a pharaoh. But the title, you quickly realize, is just a title. The true power resides not with the boy king, but with his regents. The triumvirate that rules in his name is a motley crew of schemers. There is the aforementioned eunuch, Pothinus, your chief antagonist. Then there is Achilles, a general of the Egyptian army, a brutal and cunning man whose loyalty is to power, not to the throne. And finally, there's Theodotus of Chios, a Greek rhetorician who uses his smooth words to justify the ruthless actions of the others. These three men, this unholy trinity, form a wall between you and your brother, and you know, with absolute certainty, that they will not rest until they have pushed you out of the picture entirely. The will stipulates that you and your brother must rule together. This is a problem for Pothinus and his allies. They know you are far too intelligent and far too ambitious to be a ceremonial queen. They see you as a threat to their total control over the boy king and by extension over Egypt. Their first move is a classic power play. They begin to use your brother's name to issue decrees, to pass laws, to sign documents that are meant to undermine your authority. You find yourself in an absurd situation. You're a co-ruler, a pharaoh, but your name is consistently omitted from official state correspondence. You watch as your power is systematically eroded, your influence reduced to nothing more than a ceremonial role. It's like you're playing a high-stakes game of Monopoly, and they keep landing on all your properties and demanding rent, while you're still stuck in jail. It's infuriating, but you know better than to lose your temper. A Ptolemaic ruler, you recall, must always project an air of divine calm. You begin to fight back, but you do it with subtlety. You use the skills you honed in your years in the palace. You find loyalists within the court, old servants and minor officials who remember your father's better days and who resent the triumvirate's blatant power grab. You send secret messages, meet in hidden corridors, and build a network of informants. You know every rumour, every secret, every piece of gossip that swirls through the palace, and you use it to your advantage. You're a spy in your own home, a phantom queen in a kingdom that is slipping through your fingers. A mainstream historical fact you are intimately aware of is the religious and political significance of your rule. As pharaoh, you are considered a living goddess, the embodiment of Isis, the goddess of the throne. Your brother is the embodiment of Osiris. This divine connection gives you a great deal of symbolic power, and you decide to use it. You start commissioning coins with your face alone on them, a direct and open challenge to the triumvirate's attempts to erase you. You begin to wear the ceremonial robes of Isis more frequently, attending religious ceremonies and speaking directly to the priests and the people. You're reminding everyone that you're not just a political figure, you're a divine one. This is a move that infuriates Pothinus, who sees it for the direct challenge it is. The stakes are raised. The triumvirate, realizing that your quiet resistance is more dangerous than they initially thought, decides to take a more direct approach. They begin to spread rumors about you, portraying you as a ruthless, power-hungry woman who seeks to usurp her brother's throne. They accuse you of disloyalty to the dynasty, of conspiring with foreign powers. This is a classic propaganda move, but it is effective. The boy king, Ptolemy XIII, surrounded by these whispers and lies, begins to believe them. He starts to see you not as his sister, but as his enemy. It's a tragedy unfolding in real time, a family torn apart by power. A quirky, almost humorous tidbit from this time is that your sister Arsinoe, remember her? She's waiting in the wings, a kind of secondary antagonist, hoping you and your brother destroy each other so she can sweep in and seize the throne for herself. She is the ultimate opportunist, a silent observer waiting for her moment. It's a bizarre family dynamic, a royal squabble that feels both ancient and as modern as any reality show, a kind of ancient Roman keeping up with the Ptolemies. Historians still argue whether your actions during this period were a legitimate attempt to assert your rights as co-ruler, or a self-serving attempt to seize absolute power. You know the truth, of course. You were trying to save your kingdom from the clutches of these men, to prevent them from turning it into a Roman vassal state. But in the world of power politics, motives are rarely as simple as they seem. The tension finally boils over. The triumvirate, having successfully poisoned your brother's mind and turned the court against you, makes its move. They orchestrate a palace coup, a sudden and brutal show of force. The royal guards, now under Achilles' command, bar the palace doors to you. You're given a choice: stay and risk arrest or assassination, or flee. You are, for the first time in your life, on the run. You're no longer a queen, you are a fugitive. And as you slip out of the palace, a sense of quiet determination settles over you. They may have taken your palace, but they have not taken your will. You are not a woman to be trifled with, and you will not go gently into that good night. This is not the end of your story. It is just the beginning of the most dangerous and transformative chapter of your life. As you slipped out of the palace, the night air was thick and humid, a stark contrast to the stifling, claustrophobic atmosphere you had lived in for so long. You were now a pharaoh without a throne, a queen without a kingdom. You had nothing but the clothes on your back, a small band of loyal retainers, and the iron will that had been forged in the fires of your youth. The city of Alexandria, your home, was now a place of danger. Every street corner, every marketplace, every grand avenue was a potential trap. You were a fugitive in a city that bore your name, a woman on the run from her own brother's guards. Your first move was to leave the city. You knew that as long as you remained in Alexandria, you were at the mercy of Pothinus and his goons. They controlled the army, the bureaucracy, and the boy king. You had to get out to a place where you could be safe, a place where you could begin to rebuild your power. You made your way east toward the border of your kingdom, toward the deserts and the wilderness. It was a perilous journey. The landscape was harsh, and the journey was long and tiring. You were no longer living in the lap of luxury. You were surviving on grit and determination. A mainstream historical fact that shaped your exile was the existence of a loyal Egyptian army on the Syrian border, a force your father had stationed there to protect against threats from the Seleucid Empire. This was the one part of the army that was not under the direct command of Achilles, and it was to this force that you made your way. The journey was a gamble, a desperate move that could have ended in your capture or death. But you knew it was your only chance. As you travelled, you began to build your own army. You were a queen with a cause, and you found that there were many in Egypt who resented the rule of Pothinus and his Roman puppet masters. You were a true Ptolemy, a direct descendant of the line that had ruled for 3 centuries, and you could speak the language of the people. They saw you not as a foreign oppressor, but as their rightful pharaoh, a living embodiment of the divine. And so, farmers, artisans, and disillusioned soldiers began to flock to your banner. Your small band of retainers swelled into a force. You were no longer just a fugitive. You were a general, a leader of men and women who believed in you. Meanwhile, back in Alexandria, your brother, Ptolemy XIII, was a king in name only. Pothinus and Achilles had him on a short leash, parading him around like a trophy. They issued decrees in his name, sold off state assets to enrich themselves, and continued to appease the Roman generals who were vying for control of the Republic. The city, once a bustling centre of commerce and culture, began to suffer. The people were growing restless, and the whispers of a coming civil war grew louder. Pothinus, in his hubris, believed he had neutralized you. He underestimated your intelligence, your will, and your ability to inspire loyalty. It was a fatal mistake. A quirky little historical tidbit from this time. You used your knowledge of the land and your connections with the local populace to gather intelligence. Your network of spies wasn't made up of polished courtiers. It was made up of fishermen, traders, and camel drivers. Simple folk who were loyal to you and who had a good ear for gossip. You knew every troop movement, every tax levy, every complaint from the people before Pothinus and his crew did. You were, in essence, running a guerrilla campaign from the wilderness. Historians still argue whether your flight was a strategic retreat or a desperate escape. You know it was a bit of both. You had to get out, but you also had a plan. You were not just fleeing, you were preparing. You were building an army, gathering support, and waiting for the right moment to strike. You knew that your brother's regents would eventually overplay their hand, and you wanted to be ready when they did. You were a chess master, and you were thinking 3 moves ahead of your opponents. Your exile was a time of immense growth. You learned to live in the desert, to sleep under the stars, to eat simple food. You learned to lead men, to command respect not through your title, but through your actions. You were no longer the pampered princess of Alexandria. You were a warrior queen, a woman who could ride for days without complaint, a leader who shared the hardships of her soldiers. The experience hardened you, making you more resilient, more focused, more dangerous. You were a different person than the one who had slipped out of the palace in the dead of night. Pothinus, blinded by his own arrogance, eventually realized his mistake. He sent out troops to hunt you down, but it was too late. You had already reached the border, and you had a full-fledged army behind you. The stage was set for a confrontation. It was no longer a palace intrigue, it was a civil war. Your army, though smaller and less well-equipped than the official Egyptian forces, was filled with a sense of righteous fury. They were fighting for their queen, for their land, for their dignity. They were fighting for you. You stood on the border, a young woman in command of an army, and you looked back at the land that was rightfully yours. You knew that the road ahead was filled with danger, but you also knew that you had a chance. You were ready to fight, to bleed, to do whatever it took to reclaim your throne. The dangerous co-regency had ended, not with a whimper, but with the clashing of swords and the thunder of marching feet. You were a queen, and you were coming home. You were a general now, not just a queen. Your army, a motley but devoted band of followers, is encamped just outside the Egyptian border. The air crackles with anticipation. The moment for talk has passed. The moment for war has arrived. From a high vantage point you survey the land that is rightfully yours, the fertile Nile Delta, the shimmering cities, the bustling ports. It all feels so close, yet so far, guarded by the very men who betrayed you. Pothinus and Achilles, in their arrogance, have mobilized the main Egyptian army and positioned it to block your advance. They are a formidable force, well-trained and well-equipped. They are led by Achilles, a man whose military prowess is as well known as his brutality. He scoffs at your army, a ragtag collection of rebels and loyalists, and he believes a quick, decisive victory is all but assured. He is a soldier, and he thinks this is a simple military problem. He underestimates you, the queen who understands politics as well as she understands war. You have a choice to make. You can attack head-on, a frontal assault that would likely lead to a bloody and costly battle. Or you can wait. You choose to wait. You set up a fortified camp and begin a war of attrition and diplomacy. You send out messengers to the Roman garrison in Alexandria. to the Roman merchants and citizens, to the foreign ambassadors. You paint a picture of Pothinus and Achilles as usurpers, as men who are squandering the resources of Egypt to fight a civil war. You remind them that their interests are best served by a stable, unified Egypt under your rule. This is a crucial part of your strategy. You're not just fighting for a throne, you're fighting for international legitimacy. A quirky historical tidbit about this time: your army's lack of official uniforms became a point of pride. Your soldiers wore different colours and symbols, but they all carried a shared sense of purpose. Some even fashioned makeshift banners from old linen and painted them with the symbol of your family, the eagle of the Ptolemies, a subtle but powerful reminder of who they were fighting for. It was a kind of folk art rebellion, and it bolstered morale immensely. Meanwhile, back in Rome, the political landscape is in utter chaos. The civil war between Julius Caesar and Pompey the Great has reached its crescendo. Caesar has defeated Pompey at the Battle of Pharsalus, but Pompey has escaped and is on the run. He is, you learn, heading for Egypt, seeking refuge with the boy king Ptolemy XIII, his old ally and your father's former friend. This is a complication you did not anticipate, a Roman problem that is about to land on your doorstep. Historians still argue whether Pothinus and Achilles' next move was a brilliant act of self-preservation or a catastrophic mistake. When Pompey arrives on the Egyptian coast, he's greeted not with a hero's welcome, but with a cold act of betrayal. Achilles, on the advice of Pothinus and the boy king, orders Pompey's assassination. They believe that by killing Caesar's enemy, they will win his favour and guarantee their continued rule. It is a brutal and cynical move, but it is, they believe, the only way to survive. The message is sent to Caesar. We have done your dirty work for you. We are loyal to Rome and to you, but they have miscalculated terribly. They have forgotten that Caesar, for all his ruthless ambition, is also a man of honour. He is a Roman consul, a man who values tradition and respect. He is horrified by the cold-blooded murder of his former rival. He is not a man to be appeased by an act of treachery. He is a man who demands justice, and so he orders his legions to sail for Egypt. He is coming, not as an ally, but as an avenger, a judge. You are miles away when the news reaches you, but you feel the ripple of its impact. The game has changed. Your civil war has now become a pawn in a larger Roman chess match. You know that whoever controls Egypt will be the one who controls the outcome of the Roman civil war. Your enemy is no longer just Pothinus and Achilles. It is also the Roman general who has just landed on your shores, looking for an explanation and a reckoning. You know that you have a choice to make. You can continue your war with Achilles, a war you may or may not win, or you can gamble everything on a single audacious move. You decide to meet Caesar. You will not send a messenger. You will not send an envoy. You will go yourself. But how? How do you, a fugitive queen, a general on the run, get past an army and into a city occupied by Roman legions? How do you get to Caesar, to speak to him face to face before Pothinus and his crew can poison his mind against you? This is where your intelligence, your cunning, and your bravery will be tested. The journey to Caesar will not be easy. It will require you to sneak past your own brother's army, to slip into a city you are forbidden to enter, and to present yourself to a Roman general who is not known for his patience or his mercy. But you are a queen who has fought back. You have raised an army from nothing. You have survived in the wilderness, and you have outmaneuvered men who thought they were your betters. You are not afraid. You are ready to make the most desperate gamble of your life. You are going to put your life, your kingdom, and your very future into the hands of one man, Julius Caesar. You stand on the banks of the Nile, watching as the sun dips below the horizon, painting the river in shades of orange and purple. You are a fugitive queen, a warrior in exile, and you are about to make the most audacious move of your life. The great general Julius Caesar has arrived in Alexandria, and he is a man known for his swiftness and his unyielding will. You cannot afford to wait. You must get to him. But how? The city is surrounded by your brother's army, and every road, every bridge, every path is guarded. You turn to your most trusted advisor, a man named Apollodorus. He is not a general, not a courtier, but a scholar, a man of intellect and resourcefulness. You have a plan so bold, so utterly insane, that it just might work. You will not ride into Alexandria like a queen. You will sneak in like a thief, and not just any thief, but a package, a gift. The plan is simple, and yet terrifying in its execution. You will be smuggled into the city, past your brother's guards, and into the palace where Caesar is staying. You will not be carried in a litter, a conveyance fit for a queen, but in a simple bedroll, a large bag meant to hold bedding. This is a masterstroke of disguise. Who would suspect a queen to be rolled up like a spare rug? It is a gamble, a desperate last-ditch effort. A mainstream historical fact of this journey is its reliance on the loyalty and cunning of a single man. Apollodorus, a man of humble means but immense bravery, is the one who will carry you. He will carry you on his back, a human sack of royal intrigue, right past the nose of the very men who want you dead. The irony is not lost on you. The Pharaoh of Egypt, the living embodiment of the goddess Isis, is being smuggled into her own palace in a bedroll. The journey begins in the dead of night. The air is cool, and the sounds of the desert are all around you. You're rolled up tightly in the bedroll, the fabric rough against your skin. It is dark and stuffy, but you do not complain. You are a queen with a purpose. You can hear the sounds of Apollodorus's footsteps, the crunch of sand, and the distant murmur of the city. You hear the voices of the guards, their laughter, their conversations. Your heart pounds in your chest, a frantic drumbeat against the stillness of the night. You're so close to being caught, to having your desperate gamble end in failure. But you are a woman of iron will, and you refuse to give in to fear. The entry into the city is a blur of anxiety. You're passed from hand to hand, a package of immense value. Apollodorus, with a quiet confidence that belies the danger, manages to navigate the labyrinthine streets of Alexandria. He's a local, a man who knows every back alley, every hidden passage, and he uses his knowledge to get you past the sentries and into the palace grounds. He's a hero, a man who will forever be immortalized in your story, a testament to the loyalty you inspire in those around you. A quirky historical tidbit about this famous moment. The bedroll you were smuggled in was not a luxurious silk tapestry, but likely a coarse, simple material. The entire point of the disguise was to be unremarkable, to be nothing more than a simple piece of baggage. The idea of the Queen of Egypt being carried like a servant's belonging is a testament to the utter desperation and brilliance of the moment. It's a kind of royal-themed slapstick, but with the highest possible stakes. Finally, you are inside the palace. You are unrolled, and you stand before the greatest man in the Roman world, Julius Caesar. He's not what you expected. He's not the hulking brute of a general you imagined. He's a man of medium height, with a piercing gaze and a mind that moves faster than light. He is, you quickly realize, a man of immense intellect, a man who appreciates boldness and wit. He's a man who can see the game being played, and he knows a player when he sees one. You're no longer a fugitive. You're a queen standing on your own 2 feet, face to face with a man who holds your fate in his hands. You do not cower. You do not plead. You look him in the eye and you begin to speak. You speak in flawless Greek, a language he appreciates, a language that tells him you are a woman of learning, not just a desperate girl. You tell him your story. You tell him about your father's will, about the treachery of Pothinus, about the boy king who is nothing more than a puppet. You tell him about the civil war and your rightful place on the throne. Historians still argue whether Caesar was instantly smitten by you, or if he was simply impressed by your political astuteness. You, of course, know the truth. You captivated him. You were not like the Roman women he knew, the proper demure matrons who stayed in the background. You were a queen, a scholar, a polyglot, a warrior. You were a woman who had fought for her throne and was willing to risk everything to get it back. You were a force of nature, and he, a man who had conquered the world, was fascinated by you. Your brother, Ptolemy XIII, and his chief advisor, Pothinus, are informed that you have arrived in the palace. They are, to put it mildly, furious. They storm into the palace demanding your arrest. But Caesar is not a man to be trifled with. He is a man of order, and he decides to hear both sides of the story. He is a Roman arbiter, and he will decide who is the rightful ruler of Egypt. He is, you realize, your judge, your jury, and your executioner. But you have gotten to him. You have made your case. The desperate gamble has paid off. The fate of Egypt and of your life is no longer in the hands of your enemies. It is in the hands of the most powerful man in the world, and you have his attention. You're in the palace, a guest, and a captive. Julius Caesar, a man whose name is whispered in every corner of the known world, has taken up residence here, and you are living under his watchful eye. He is, you understand, a man of profound contradictions, a brilliant general, a ruthless politician, and a sophisticated man of letters. He is also your only hope. The palace, once a gilded cage, now feels like a safe house, a fortress against the furious forces gathering outside. Pothinus, your brother's chief eunuch and regent, storms into the palace, his face contorted with rage. He demands your immediate arrest, your return to exile. But Caesar, with a cool detachment that unnerves Pothinus, refuses. He is a man who respects order and legitimacy, and he insists on hearing both sides of the dispute. He is not a man to be swayed by a tantrum. He is a Roman, and Romans, for all their faults, believe in a certain kind of process. He forces your brother, Ptolemy XIII, and you to sit down and arbitrate your differences in his presence. It's a surreal moment, a family squabble being mediated by the most powerful man in the world. During these meetings, you are at your best. You're eloquent, articulate, and you present your case with a clarity and a passion that your brother, a young boy parroting the words of his regent, simply cannot match. You cite your father's will, you detail the treachery of Pothinus, you speak of your love for your people and your desire for a stable Egypt. Your brother, on the other hand, is nervous and unsure of himself. He fidgets, he stammers, and his words feel hollow. Caesar, a master of reading people, sees through the facade. He sees the puppet and the puppeteer. A mainstream historical fact of this period is that Caesar was not just an arbiter, he was a conqueror. He had arrived in Egypt with a very small force, only 2 legions, a total of perhaps 4,000 men. This was not enough to subdue all of Egypt, but it was enough to seize control of the palace and the port of Alexandria. He was a man of immense audacity, a man who believed that a strong will could overcome any numerical disadvantage. His presence was an unspoken threat, a silent reminder that if the 2 of you could not agree, he would take the entire kingdom for himself. Your sister, Arsinoe, remember her? She is still in the palace, watching from the shadows, her ambition a constant simmering presence. She sees Caesar's growing favour for you, and she becomes increasingly jealous and resentful. She sees a queen in the making, and she knows that her own dreams of power are slipping away. She's a secondary, but still very real threat. She's a viper in your midst. The conflict, however, is not confined to the palace. Pothinus, realizing that his grip on the boy king is slipping and that Caesar is siding with you, makes a desperate and catastrophic mistake. He orders Achilles to march his entire army on Alexandria. He does not want an arbitration. He wants a war. He wants to drive the Romans out of Egypt and regain total control. He is a man who is willing to burn down the house to save his own chair. The city is plunged into chaos. The Egyptian army surrounds the Roman position, a massive force of 20,000 men against Caesar's 4,000. It is a siege, a desperate fight for survival. Caesar and his men are trapped inside the palace, surrounded by a furious mob of soldiers. You are with him, a queen in the midst of a battle, a witness to the carnage and the chaos. The fighting is fierce. The sound of clashing swords and shouting men echoes through the palace halls. A quirky historical tidbit from this time. The fighting was so intense that Caesar was forced to order the torching of the Egyptian fleet in the harbour to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. This fire, a consequence of military necessity, had an unintended and catastrophic consequence. The fire spread, and it is widely believed that a significant portion of the great library of Alexandria was destroyed in the ensuing blaze. A part of human history, an irreplaceable collection of knowledge, went up in smoke, a tragic casualty of a political squabble. The irony of all that wisdom being lost in a fire started by a man of letters is not lost on you. It's a terrible, beautiful tragedy. Historians still argue whether Caesar's decision to burn the fleet was a necessary military tactic or a reckless act of destruction. What is not in dispute is its consequence. The fire was a terrible blow to the city and to the world. It was a reminder that war, even for the most noble of causes, is a destructive force that can wipe out centuries of human achievement in a single moment. You and Caesar are now in this together. Your fates are intertwined. You're trapped in a besieged palace, and your only hope is to survive. You're no longer just a political figure. You're a war companion. You're a source of comfort and strength for Caesar, a woman who does not cower in the face of danger. He sees your courage, your resilience, and your unwavering belief in your cause. He sees a queen worthy of his protection, and perhaps something more. The dangerous flirtation between you and the Roman general is now a full-blown romance. a relationship forged in the crucible of war. You are a queen, a war companion, and a lover, and the world is watching. The siege of Alexandria is a suffocating reality. You are trapped with Caesar and his men in a small section of the palace, surrounded by a hostile city and a furious army. The sounds of war are constant. The clang of metal on metal, the shouts of men, the distant rumble of siege engines. The air is thick with the acrid smell of smoke and the coppery scent of blood. The city you once knew, a vibrant cosmopolitan hub of commerce and culture, is now a war zone. You are a prisoner in your own home, and your brother's army, led by the brutal Achilles, is your jailer. Caesar is in his element. He is a general, and a siege is a game he knows how to play. He is brilliant, calm under pressure, and he is constantly thinking, constantly strategizing. He's a master of defense, but he is also a man of action. He organizes his men, fortifies the palace, and sends out patrols to gather intelligence. He is a machine of war, but you see the man behind the general's mask. He's a man who is impressed by your composure, by your ability to remain calm in the face of such danger. You, in turn, are useful to him. You know the palace like the back of your hand, and you are a source of vital intelligence. You know the secret passages, the hidden wells, the back entrances. You're a guide, a silent partner in his military operations. You're a queen, but you're also a soldier, a woman who is not afraid to get her hands dirty. You're a living example of a queen who is willing to fight for her throne, and he respects that. A mainstream historical fact of this siege is the utter desperation of the Roman position. They were a small, outnumbered force, cut off from reinforcements and facing a massive army in a city that had turned against them. They were in a very real danger of being wiped out. Caesar was a man who had faced many battles, but this was one of his most precarious. His survival, and your own, depended on his ability to hold out until reinforcements could arrive. The siege takes a terrible turn with the arrival of your sister, Arsinoe. She has been in the palace this whole time, quietly fomenting dissent, waiting for her moment. She is now a full-blown opportunist, and she sees her chance. She escapes the palace with her loyal eunuch, a man named Ganymedes, and joins the Egyptian army. She declares herself queen, the true ruler of Egypt. The army, tired of Achilles' incompetence and encouraged by her royal blood, embraces her. She becomes a new threat, a rival queen, and a symbol of the civil war that is tearing your family apart. She is a true viper, a woman who is willing to use any means necessary to get what she wants, even if it means allying herself with your enemies. A quirky historical tidbit about this is the fact that the Egyptian army, tired of their feuding leaders, actually killed Achilles and put Ganymedes, Arsinoe's eunuch, in his place as the commander. This shows just how dysfunctional and fragmented the opposition to Caesar and you had become. It's a kind of dark comedy of errors, a series of betrayals and backstabbings that would be almost laughable if the stakes weren't so high. Historians still argue whether Arsinoe was a genuine patriot trying to save Egypt from Roman control, or a self-serving opportunist who saw a chance to seize power for herself. You, of course, know the truth. She was a rival, a woman who would have happily handed Egypt over to a foreign power if it meant she could be on the throne. She was a perfect example of what can go wrong when ambition outpaces intellect and morality. The siege drags on for months. It is a war of attrition, a test of wills. Caesar and his men hold out a small island of order in a sea of chaos. You are a constant presence at his side, a source of comfort and counsel. You are no longer a fragile princess, a woman who needs to be rescued. You are a partner, a leader, a woman who is in this fight with him to the end. Finally, reinforcements arrive. A Roman relief force led by a general named Mithridates of Pergamum arrives on the coast and begins a march toward Alexandria. The Egyptian army, now divided and demoralized, is forced to abandon the siege and meet the new threat. Caesar, ever the opportunist, seizes his chance. He leads his men out of the palace, attacks the weakened Egyptian army, and in a decisive battle on the banks of the Nile, crushes them. The boy king, Ptolemy XIII, a symbol of the resistance, is said to have drowned in the river while trying to escape. And your sister, Arsinoe, is captured, a prisoner of war. The war is over. You have won. You have reclaimed your throne, not through a simple inheritance, but through a brutal months-long struggle. You have survived a siege, a civil war, and a family coup, and you have done it with the help of the most powerful man in the world. The city of Alexandria is a wreck. The great library is a smouldering ruin, but you are a queen again. You're no longer just a ruler. You are a survivor, a victor, a woman who has earned her throne. And you are about to give birth to a new kind of heir. The war is over. The dust settles on the streets of Alexandria, revealing a city scarred by battle but filled with a sense of relief. Your brother, the boy king Ptolemy XIII, is dead, drowned in the Nile, a tragic figure in a family drama gone horribly wrong. Your ambitious sister, Arsinoe, is a captive, to be paraded in Rome as a trophy of Caesar's victory. You are now the undisputed ruler of Egypt, the living embodiment of Isis, the queen who was betrayed and yet returned to triumph. But your victory is not a solitary one. It is a victory shared with Julius Caesar. He is the man who saved you, who fought for you, who risked his own life and the lives of his men to ensure your rightful place on the throne. Your alliance, born of a desperate gamble and forged in the crucible of a brutal siege, has blossomed into something more. You and Caesar are lovers. The Roman general, a man of power and ambition, is utterly captivated by you. You're not just a queen, you are his intellectual equal, his companion in war, and the woman who holds his heart. You spend a glorious period with him, a kind of extended, decadent holiday. You sail with him on the Nile in a magnificent royal barge, a floating palace, a spectacle of luxury that must have been utterly mind-boggling for his Roman soldiers. You travel deep into your kingdom, a royal procession that serves as a victory tour. He sees Egypt not as a land to be conquered, but as a place of wonder and history, a land that has captured your heart. He is a Roman, but he is a man of culture and curiosity, and he is fascinated by the ancient history and rich traditions of your people. A quirky historical tidbit from this time. It is said that Caesar, ever the engineer, was so captivated by the mechanics of the Nile that he seriously considered the possibility of building a canal that would change the river's flow. It's a whimsical thought, a general turned geologist, a testament to his restless and brilliant mind. It's also a hint of the kind of power he felt he had, a power to literally reshape the world. Your bond with Caesar is sealed with the birth of a son. You name him Ptolemy Caesar, but he will forever be known by the affectionate nickname the Alexandrians give him, Caesarion, or Little Caesar. He is born in 47 BC, a child who is a living, breathing symbol of the union between two of the most powerful people in the world. He is not just your son, he is Caesar's son, a half-Roman, half-Egyptian heir who embodies the future of your two great empires. A mainstream historical fact of this event is its political significance. Caesar already had a long and storied career, but he had no legitimate male heir. His son with you, however, was not recognized by Roman law, as you were not Roman and were not married. But in Egypt, he was your son, and by the traditions of your people, he was your heir. Caesar, a man who had conquered the world, had found a kind of immortality in this small child. His name would live on. He was a father, and that for a man in his position was a very big deal. Historians still argue whether Caesar had any intention of making Caesarion his official heir. There are those who say that his Roman laws and traditions would never have allowed for a foreign, illegitimate son to inherit his power. But there are others who believe that Caesar, in his final years, was so enamoured with you and with the idea of a new kind of empire, an empire of the East, that he might have seriously considered it. What is not in dispute is the profound effect the birth of Caesarion had on you and on your relationship with Caesar. You were no longer just a lover. You were the mother of his son. Your rule of Egypt, now that you have secured it, is a time of prosperity and peace. With Roman protection, you are able to stabilize the economy, reform the government, and begin the long, slow work of rebuilding a kingdom that has been torn apart by civil war. You're a queen, a mother, and a strategist. You're a woman who has found a kind of power and a kind of contentment that you could only have dreamed of. But you know, with a certainty that chills you to the bone, that this cannot last. Caesar is a Roman general, and his home is Rome. He has a republic to govern, a world to conquer, and a political career to manage. He cannot stay in Egypt forever. The time for his departure is coming, and with it, a new kind of challenge for you. You are a queen, but you are a queen who is now a part of the Roman world, a world that is far more complex and far more dangerous than the simple civil war you have just won. Your departure from Egypt is an emotional one. Caesar leaves a small Roman garrison behind to ensure your continued rule, a clear sign of his favour and his protection. But his heart, you know, is still in Rome. And so, you watch as he sails away, a man who has changed your life, a man who has given you a son, a man who will soon face the most dangerous challenges of his life. And you, a queen who has just survived a war, are about to face an even more dangerous world, the cutthroat, brutal world of Roman politics. Your son is a symbol of your power, and he is also a target. And you know, with the cold clarity of a strategist, that you must now do whatever it takes to protect him and your kingdom. You and Caesarion, your beautiful son, are in Rome. It is 46 BC, and you have come at Caesar's invitation. You're here not as a prisoner, not as a supplicant, but as a queen, a living goddess, and the mother of Caesar's son. You have been given a villa on the other side of the Tiber, a magnificent home where you are free to live and to receive guests. It is a stunning, breathtaking city, a world of marble and power, a place so different from the vibrant, sensual chaos of Alexandria. Here, everything is order, everything is purpose, and everything is a political statement. You and your son are the ultimate political statement. Caesar is at the height of his power. He is the dictator, a man who has conquered the known world, and he is a hero to the common people. He has built a new forum, a new senate house, and he is constantly commissioning new works of art and architecture. He is a man who is not just a ruler, he is a builder, a visionary, a man who is trying to remake the Roman world in his own image. He is a man who dotes on you and your son, a man who introduces you to his friends and to the senators and to the Roman elite. He is a man who is not afraid to show the world that he loves you, a foreign queen, and that he is the father of your son. A mainstream historical fact of this visit is the profound culture shock you experienced. You're used to a world where the pharaoh is a living god, a divine being who commands unquestioning obedience. In Rome, the senators, the patricians, the common people, they all see their rulers as men, as politicians, as people to be questioned and debated. You are treated with a kind of uneasy respect. They see you as an exotic curiosity, a queen from a land of mystery, but they do not see you as a goddess. This is a difficult adjustment. You are a pharaoh in Egypt, but in Rome, you are just a woman who has a great deal of influence over their leader. It is a precarious position. You and your son become a sensation. The Roman elite are fascinated by you. They are intrigued by your intelligence, by your knowledge of languages, by your exotic beauty. You are the subject of gossip, of rumour, of speculation. The common people, on the other hand, love you. They see you as a kind of celebrity, a queen who has come to their city to be with their hero, Caesar. It's a bit like being a rock star in a toga, a kind of ancient celebrity that is both thrilling and deeply unsettling. But not everyone is happy. The Roman Senate, in particular, is resentful of your presence. They see you as a symbol of Caesar's ambition, his desire to break with Roman tradition and to become a king, a monarch, a dictator for life. They see you, a foreign queen, as a threat to their republic. They are afraid that Caesar will make you his queen, that he will legitimize your son, and that Rome will no longer be a republic, but a monarchy ruled by a foreign dynasty. This fear is a constant simmering presence. A quirky historical tidbit from this time is that the Roman poet Cicero, a man of letters and a senator, was a bit of a grouch about your visit. He was not a fan of Caesar's, and he certainly was not a fan of you. He referred to you in his letters as an imperatrix, a female ruler, in a condescending tone, and he complained about your influence over Caesar. He was a man who saw the world in black and white, and he was not ready for a queen who was not a Roman. He was a perfect example of the old Roman guard, the men who would eventually become your enemies. Historians still argue whether Caesar had any intention of marrying you and making Caesarion his heir. There are those who believe he was testing the waters, trying to gauge the reaction of the Roman people and the Senate to the idea of a new, more monarchical form of government. And there are others who believe he was simply a man in love, a man who was willing to break with tradition for the woman he adored. What is not in dispute is the fact that your presence in Rome fueled the growing resentment against Caesar, the belief that he was becoming a tyrant, a man who was trying to destroy the Republic. Your time in Rome is a delicate balancing act. You're a queen, but you're also a diplomat, a politician. a woman who must navigate a world of shifting allegiances and hidden resentments. You are in love with Caesar, but you're also a pragmatic ruler who knows that her kingdom, her son, and her very life depend on his continued protection. You are a living goddess in a land that is not ready for a god-king. And the men who are plotting against Caesar, the men who are afraid of his power, they see you as a symbol of everything they hate. The Roman world is a powder keg, and you are living on top of it. You are a woman who has survived a civil war, a siege, and a family feud. But you are about to face an enemy far more dangerous than any general or regent. You are about to face the wrath of the Roman Senate, the collective will of a group of men who are willing to do anything to save their republic, even if it means destroying the man you love. Your time in Rome is coming to an end, and you know, with a cold certainty, that when you leave, the world will be changed forever. The Ides of March, 44 BC. You're in your villa across the Tiber, a place of quiet refuge in a city of political turmoil. Caesar, your lover, the father of your son, is in the Senate house. You have no reason to be concerned. He is the most powerful man in the world. He has conquered Gaul, he has defeated Pompey, and he has brought order to a republic on the verge of collapse. He is untouchable. He is beloved by the people. He is to you a man who has made the world a safer place, a man who has given you back your throne. But you are wrong, terribly wrong. The news reaches you in a torrent of shouting, frantic messengers. The rumours swirl, each more unbelievable than the last. He has been attacked. He has been stabbed. He is dead. You cannot believe it. You will not believe it. You send your own messengers, your most trusted servants, to find out the truth. And the truth, when it comes, is a cold, brutal reality. Julius Caesar is dead. He was assassinated by a conspiracy of senators, men who were once his friends, men who saw him not as a saviour, but as a tyrant. He was murdered at the foot of a statue of his old enemy, Pompey, a final, cruel irony. The city of Rome is a powder keg. The assassination has plunged the Republic into chaos. The conspirators, led by Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus, stand on the steps of the Senate, proclaiming that they have saved the Republic from a tyrant. But the people of Rome do not see them as saviours. They see them as murderers. The city is plunged into a state of mourning and fury. The air is thick with the scent of a coming civil war, a conflict that will be far more brutal and far more personal than the last one. A mainstream historical fact of this period is that you were in a state of utter shock and vulnerability. Your protector, your lover, the man who held the key to your throne and your son's future, was gone. You were a foreign queen, alone in a city that was suddenly hostile and dangerous. You were a symbol of everything the conspirators had just risked their lives to destroy. You were in mortal danger. Your first instinct, as a queen and as a mother, is to protect your son. You know that he, the living symbol of Caesar's ambition, is now a target. Your position in Rome is no longer tenable. You have to leave. You have to get out and you have to get home. But how? The city is in chaos and the roads are dangerous. The conspirators, having made their move, are now watching you, wondering what you will do. They are afraid of you, a woman who is the mother of Caesar's son, a woman who has the loyalty of a kingdom that is now a key part of the Roman world. A quirky historical tidbit from this time is that one of the conspirators, Decimus Junius Brutus Albinus, was a close friend of Caesar's. He had been a beneficiary of Caesar's generosity and had been appointed to a position of great power. His betrayal was a shock to many, a testament to the ideological fervour that drove the conspirators. It shows just how personal and how deeply felt this conflict was. It wasn't just about politics. It was about honour, about principle, about a very specific and very Roman idea of what a republic should be. You make the decision to flee. You gather your most trusted servants, your most loyal retainers, and you pack up your things. You do not wait for a formal farewell. You do not send a message. You simply leave. You and Caesarion slip out of the city under the cover of night, a ghost in a land of ghosts. The journey back to Egypt is long and arduous. You are no longer travelling in a magnificent royal barge. You are on a merchant ship, a quiet, unassuming vessel that is meant to blend in. You are a queen, but you are also a refugee. You are a woman on the run, a mother trying to protect her child. Historians still argue whether the conspirators ever had any intention of harming you or Caesarion. There are those who say that their primary goal was to kill Caesar and restore the Republic, and that they had no quarrel with you. But there are others who believe that you and your son were a symbol of the monarchy they so despised, and that your continued existence was a threat to their political goals. You know, with the cold clarity of a survivor, that it was a risk you could not take. You had to get out. You had to get home. Your return to Alexandria is a return to a city that is suddenly a safe harbour in a world of storms. You're no longer an exile, a queen in waiting. You're a queen, a widow, a mother, and a survivor. The Roman world is on the brink of another civil war, a brutal personal conflict that will pit Caesar's avengers, his young, charismatic heir, Octavian, and his trusted general, Mark Antony, against the conspirators. You're now a key player in this new game. Your kingdom, your wealth, your power. It all makes you a prize, a target, and a potential ally. You're a queen who has survived a siege, a civil war, and the assassination of the most powerful man in the world, and you're about to face a new set of challenges, a new set of enemies, and a new kind of world. You're back in Alexandria, your home, a city that now feels like a warm, familiar blanket after the cold, brutal streets of Rome. You're a queen, and you are a mother, and you are also, to put it plainly, a pragmatist. The Roman world has been plunged into chaos, and your kingdom, your son, and your future depend on your ability to navigate this new and dangerous reality. You're no longer just a ruler. You're a diplomat, a strategist, a woman who is trying to find a safe harbour in a world of storms. Your first order of business is to stabilise your kingdom. The Roman Civil War, you know, will require vast sums of money and vast numbers of soldiers. You need to make sure that Egypt, the breadbasket of the Roman world, is not caught in the crossfire. You must secure your borders, rebuild your economy, and ensure that your people are loyal to you. You are, in essence, trying to build a fortress, a place where you and your son can be safe, a place where you can be an independent power, not a pawn in a Roman game. A mainstream historical fact of this period is that you are in a very precarious position. Your kingdom, for all its wealth and history, was a vassal state of Rome. You were officially a queen, but you ruled at the pleasure of the Roman Republic. Now, with the Republic in tatters, you had to decide who you would support. Would you side with the conspirators, the men who had murdered the father of your son? Or would you side with Caesar's avengers, the men who were now fighting to avenge his death and to restore a kind of monarchical order? You are a woman with a difficult choice to make. You watch as the Roman Civil War unfolds. You receive messengers from all sides. Brutus and Cassius, the assassins, send envoys to you, asking for your support and your resources. Octavian, Caesar's young heir, sends messengers as well, a young man who is now a rising star in Rome. But the most important messenger of all comes from Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal and trusted general, a man who is now leading the fight against the conspirators. He's a man of immense power, a man who commands legions, a man who has the loyalty of the Roman army. He is the man who will, you realize, decide the fate of the Roman world and your own. A quirky historical tidbit from this time is that you were not in a hurry to choose a side. You played both ends against the middle, a kind of diplomatic double agent. You sent a small contingent of troops to help Dolabella, a Roman general who was on Caesar's side, but you also sent a secret message to Cassius, an envoy who promised your neutrality. You were a woman who was hedging her bets, a woman who was trying to survive in a world where the rules were constantly changing. It was a risky game, but it was a necessary one. Historians still argue whether your neutrality was a sign of weakness or a sign of strategic genius. There are those who say you were a woman who was afraid to choose a side, a queen who was trying to save her own skin. But there are others who believe that your neutrality was a brilliant move, a way of preserving your kingdom's power and independence until the Roman Civil War had run its course. You, of course, know the truth. You were a woman who was trying to save her kingdom from the ravages of a Roman Civil War. You were not weak, you were smart. You were a mother who was trying to protect her son, a queen who was trying to protect her people. The war ends with the Battle of Philippi, a decisive victory for the forces of Octavian and Antony. Brutus and Cassius are dead. The conspirators are no more. The Roman Republic as it once was is dead. The world has changed. The power is now in the hands of two men, the young, ambitious Octavian and the charismatic, battle-hardened Mark Antony. The two men, for the time being, have agreed to divide the Roman world between them. Octavian will rule the west and Antony will rule the east. Your kingdom, you realize, is now under the control of Mark Antony. He is the man who holds your fate in his hands. He is a man who is known for his love of the good life, his legendary parties, and his immense charisma. He is a man who is a hero to his soldiers, a man who is beloved by the people. He is also a man who is a Roman, a man who sees Egypt not just as a kingdom, but as a source of money, a place that can fund his legions and his political ambitions. You receive a summons from him, a command to meet him in the city of Tarsus. He wants to know why you did not send a larger contingent of troops to help Caesar's avengers. He wants an explanation. You are a queen, but you are also a supplicant. You are a woman who must now face a man who holds the key to your future. You cannot afford to make a mistake. You cannot afford to anger him. You must go to him, and you must win him over. The stage is set for a meeting that will change the course of history, a meeting between a Roman general and an Egyptian queen, a meeting that will decide the fate of two empires. The summons from Mark Antony arrives in Alexandria like a thunderclap. He's in the city of Tarsus, in modern-day Turkey, a city in his new domain, the Roman East. He wants to know why you did not send more support to the Roman war effort. It is not an invitation. It is a command. He is a Roman general, a victor in a civil war, and he expects you to come to him, to bow before him, and to beg for his favour. But you are a queen. You are not a supplicant. You are a living goddess, and you will not come to him on his terms. You spend months preparing for this meeting. You know that this is not a military confrontation. It is a diplomatic and political one, and you are a master of both. You are a woman who understands the power of a spectacle, the importance of a first impression. You are not going to arrive as a humble queen begging for clemency. You are going to arrive as a goddess, a woman of immense power, a queen who commands respect and awe. A mainstream historical fact of this meeting is the sheer audacity of your entrance. You arrive in Tarsus not on a simple boat, but on a magnificent royal barge, a ship of such splendour and luxury that it captures the attention of the entire city. It is said that its sails were made of purple linen, its oars were plated with silver, and its stern was decorated with gold. The barge is a floating palace, a testament to the wealth and power of your kingdom. You are not just a queen arriving, you are a goddess arriving. You are dressed as the goddess Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, a sly and brilliant choice. You recline on a couch, fanned by young boys dressed as cupids. The air is thick with the scent of exotic perfumes and incense. The city of Tarsus, accustomed to the rough practical displays of Roman power, is stunned. The crowds gather on the banks of the river, a murmuring, awestruck mob. They have never seen anything like this. They have seen Roman generals, but they have never seen a living goddess. Antony, a man who is a fan of a good party and a beautiful woman, is intrigued. He is a man who is used to a certain kind of Roman woman, the proper, demure matrons who stay in the background. You are none of those things. You are a force of nature, a woman of immense charm and charisma, a woman who is not afraid to show her power. He sends you a message, a command to meet him for dinner. You, in a brilliant act of defiance and seduction, send back a message of your own. You invite him to dine with you, on your barge. He, a Roman general, is now the supplicant. He is the one who must come to you. He arrives, and he is a man of immense presence, a man of power and charisma. He is a man of action, a man who is used to giving orders. But you are a woman who is used to being a goddess. You are in your element. You charm him with your intelligence, with your wit, with your knowledge of languages. You do not talk to him about politics or war. You talk to him about philosophy, about art, about the world. You're a woman who is not just beautiful. You're a woman who is interesting. You're a woman who can hold her own in a conversation, a woman who is an intellectual equal. A quirky historical tidbit about this meeting is that you did not just win him over with your charm, you also won him over with your mind. You were a woman of immense learning, a polyglot who could speak to him in his own language, a woman who was a scholar as well as a queen. It was a combination that he had never seen before, a kind of power that he could not resist. It was a kind of seduction that was far more powerful than any simple physical attraction. Historians still argue whether you had any intention of falling in love with Antony. There are those who say that it was a purely political calculation, a shrewd move to secure your kingdom and your son's future. But there are others who believe that you and Antony were a perfect match, two larger-than-life figures who were both outcasts in their own worlds. What is not in dispute is the profound effect the meeting had on both of you. You found a new protector, a new ally, and a new lover, and he found a new purpose, a new obsession, and a new queen. The meeting ends with a new kind of alliance, a new kind of relationship. Antony is no longer a Roman general who sees you as a vassal queen. He is a man who is utterly captivated by you. He is a man who sees you not just as a queen, but as a partner, a woman who is worthy of his love and his respect. The civil war in Rome is over, but a new kind of war is about to begin, a war between the Roman world and the world of the East. And you, a queen who has just won over the most powerful man in the world, are at the centre of it all. You are a woman who has found a way to survive, a woman who has found a way to thrive, a woman who is about to change the course of history. The grand spectacle of your arrival in Tarsus has done its work. Mark Antony is now your captive, not of chains, but of charm. He is a man who came to your meeting expecting a simple political negotiation, a kind of Roman-style shakedown for resources. But he has found something far more intoxicating, an intellectual and emotional equal, a queen who can match his larger-than-life personality. He has found a purpose, and that purpose is you. He abandons his military campaign against the Parthians, a decision that will have far-reaching consequences for Rome. He cannot bear to be apart from you. He comes to Alexandria not as a conqueror, but as a guest, a lover. He is a man who is used to the simple life of a soldier, but he is utterly captivated by the opulence and sophistication of your court. He is a man who is a hero to his soldiers, but he is now a man who is utterly devoted to a queen. You and Antony spend the winter in a kind of extended, decadent holiday. You are two people who are living life on a grand scale, two figures who are utterly unconcerned with the mundane realities of the world. You sail the Nile, you hunt, you attend lavish parties, you gamble. You are the centre of a new kind of world, a world where a Roman general and an Egyptian queen can be lovers. You are a power couple, an ancient version of two superstars who have found each other. It is a time of immense happiness, a time of love and laughter and joy. A mainstream historical fact of this period is the profound effect you had on Antony's life. He was a man who had a reputation for being a great general, but he was also known for his love of wine, women, and a good time. You did not change him, but you focused his immense energy. You gave him a purpose beyond simply conquering the world. You gave him a reason to fight, a reason to live. You were a source of strength and stability, and you gave him a new kind of empire to rule, an empire of the heart. The Roman world, meanwhile, is watching with a mixture of fascination and horror. The Roman elite, particularly your old nemesis Cicero, see Antony's infatuation with you as a sign of his weakness, his moral decay. They see him as a man who is being corrupted by the East, a man who is forgetting his Roman virtues for the sake of a foreign queen. They see you as a siren, a temptress, a woman who is luring a great Roman general away from his duty. This is the beginning of the propaganda war that will eventually destroy you. A quirky historical tidbit from this time is the fact that you and Antony formed a kind of social club, a drinking society called the Inimitable Livers. It was a group of people who were dedicated to living life to the fullest, a kind of ancient version of a party crew. They would hold lavish dinners, they would play pranks on each other, and they would live life as if every day were their last. It was a kind of defiance, a way of thumbing your nose at the stuffy, moralistic Roman world. It was a testament to your shared love of life and your shared belief that the world was a stage, and you were the two main actors. Historians still argue whether Antony's love for you was a genuine, passionate love or a kind of political calculation. There are those who say that he was a man who was simply using you for your wealth and your kingdom. But there are others who believe that he was a man who was genuinely in love with you, a man who saw in you something he had never seen before. You, of course, know the truth. It was a love that was born of a shared passion for life, a shared love of power, and a shared belief that the rules of the world were meant to be broken. Antony returns to Rome for a time, a brief and necessary interlude. He marries Octavia, Octavian's sister, a political alliance that is meant to secure peace between the two men. It is a difficult moment for you, a time of separation and loneliness. But you are a queen, and you are a mother, and you know that in the world of politics a political marriage is just a political marriage. You know that his heart, his loyalty, and his devotion are with you. He returns to you, and he is a changed man. He is no longer just a Roman general. He is now the ruler of the Roman East, and he is a man who is utterly devoted to his queen. He is a man who has made a choice, a choice that will have profound consequences for the Roman world. He has chosen you and your kingdom and your son. He is a man who is willing to risk everything for the woman he loves. And you, a queen who has just won the heart of the most powerful man in the world, are now a central player in the greatest political drama of your time. Your love story is not just a love story, it is a political statement, a challenge to the Roman world, a defiance of all the rules. And the world is watching, waiting to see what happens next. Your relationship with Mark Antony is no longer a secret. It is a known fact, a political reality that is shaping the Roman world. He has chosen you, and he has chosen the East. He is a man who is now deeply connected to your kingdom, and he is a man who is using your wealth and your resources to fund his military campaigns. He is no longer just a Roman general. He is now a kind of co-ruler, a partner in your reign. You're not a woman to sit on the sidelines. You're a queen, a strategist, a woman who is a force of nature. You accompany Antony on his military campaigns in the East, a rare and audacious move for a queen. You are with him in Syria, in Cilicia, and in Phoenicia, places that are now a part of your extended sphere of influence. You're not just a lover, you're a war companion, a woman who is a constant presence at his side. You're a source of counsel and a source of strength. You are a woman who is not afraid to speak her mind, a woman who's not afraid to give advice to a Roman general. A mainstream historical fact of this period is the immense wealth and power you wielded. Egypt was the richest kingdom in the known world, and you used that wealth to fund Antony's legions and his political ambitions. You provided him with grain, with ships, with money, and with soldiers. You were not just a partner in love, you were a partner in war. You were a woman who was a source of power, a woman who was a force to be reckoned with. Your power was now tied to his, and his was tied to yours. It was a new kind of empire, an empire of the East, an empire of two. The Roman world, meanwhile, is watching with a kind of terrified fascination. Octavian, your old nemesis, a man who is now rising in power, is using your relationship to his advantage. He is a master of propaganda, a man who knows how to use words and rumours as weapons. He portrays you as a corrupting influence, a foreign queen who is seducing a great Roman general and leading him away from his duty. He portrays you as a woman who is using your magic and your exotic charm to manipulate Antony. He portrays you as a kind of sorceress, a woman who is trying to destroy the Roman Republic. A quirky historical tidbit from this time is the fact that Antony, in a kind of grand romantic gesture, actually gives you the island of Cyprus, a place that was once a part of your father's kingdom, as a gift. It is a gift of immense value, a gesture of love and a statement of power. It is a sign that he is no longer just a Roman general, he is a man who is now a part of your world. It is a sign that he is willing to break with Roman tradition and to give a foreign queen a piece of the Roman world. Historians still argue whether Antony's gifts to you were a sign of his immense love or a sign of his growing arrogance and disregard for Roman tradition. There are those who say that he was a man who was so in love that he was willing to give away pieces of the Roman world for the woman he adored. But there are others who believe that he was a man who was simply using his power to show off, a man who was becoming more and more like a king and less like a Roman. You, of course, know the truth. It was a bit of both. It was a gift of immense love, but it was also a statement of power, a declaration that the Roman world was changing, and that he and you were the ones in charge. The Roman world is now divided. The Roman people are divided. There are those who see Antony as a hero, a man who is conquering the East and bringing glory to Rome, but there are others who see him as a traitor, a man who has abandoned his Roman identity for a foreign queen. The conflict between Octavian and Antony is no longer a simple political squabble. It is a war for the heart and soul of the Roman world. It is a war of propaganda, a war of ideas, a war that will be fought on the battlefield and in the hearts and minds of the Roman people. You, a queen, a mother, a lover, and a strategist, are at the centre of it all. You're a woman who has found a way to survive, a woman who has found a way to thrive, a woman who is a key player in the greatest political drama of your time. Your love story is not just a love story, it is a political statement, a challenge to the Roman world, a defiance of all the rules, and the world is watching, waiting to see what happens next. The stage is set for a final catastrophic conflict, a war that will decide the fate of two empires, a war that will decide the fate of your love and a war that will decide the fate of your life. Antony's love for you is no longer just a private affair, it is a very public and very political reality. He is a Roman general, a man who is supposed to be a representative of Roman values, but he is now a man who is utterly captivated by an Egyptian queen. He is a man who is making grand public gestures of love and devotion that infuriate the Roman Senate and fuel the propaganda machine of his rival, Octavian. The Donations of Alexandria is the most famous of these gestures, a spectacle of such audacity and grandeur that it sends shockwaves through the Roman world. In a grand ceremony in the Gymnasium of Alexandria, a place of Roman and Greek learning, he and you appear on golden thrones. You are dressed as the goddess Isis, and he is dressed as the god Osiris, a bold and blasphemous act in the eyes of the Romans. He proclaims you the Queen of Kings and the Queen of Queens, titles of immense and unprecedented power. He also gives your children, you have now had 3 with him, Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene, and a third Ptolemy Philadelphus, titles and kingdoms. Your son with Caesar, Caesarion, is proclaimed the King of Kings and King of Egypt. Your children with Antony are given kingdoms in Syria, Phoenicia and Cilicia. It is a grand public declaration that the East is now a part of your empire, a new kind of world ruled by a Roman general and an Egyptian queen. A mainstream historical fact of this event is its profound political significance. Antony was not just a man in love, he was a man who was trying to create a new kind of empire, an empire of the East, a Roman-Egyptian fusion that would rival the Roman world of the West. He was a man who was challenging the very notion of what it meant to be Roman, a man who was saying that the old Roman ways were no longer relevant. He was in effect declaring war on the old Roman Republic, on the Senate, on Octavian, on everything that made Rome, Rome. Octavian, a master of political opportunism, uses this event to his immense advantage. He portrays Antony as a man who has gone native, a man who has been corrupted by a foreign queen. He paints you as a sorceress, a woman who has bewitched Antony and has led him astray. He uses the Roman people's fear of the East, their fear of a monarchy, their fear of an empire that is not ruled by Romans, against Antony. He portrays himself as the true Roman, a man who is fighting to save the Republic from a corrupt and decadent general and his foreign mistress. A quirky historical tidbit from this time is the fact that Antony's grand gestures were not just political. They were also a kind of showboating, a kind of defiance that was a part of his personality. He was a man who loved a good party, a man who loved a grand spectacle, a man who was a larger-than-life figure. He was not a man who was afraid to show his love, his devotion, or his power. He was a man who was willing to break all the rules, to challenge all the conventions, and to live life on his own terms. Historians still argue whether the Donations of Alexandria was a brilliant act of statecraft or a catastrophic political blunder. There are those who say that it was a bold and visionary move, a way of creating a new kind of empire that would have been more stable and more prosperous than the old one. But there are others who believe that it was a foolish and arrogant act, a move that gave Octavian the political ammunition he needed to destroy Antony and to seize total control of the Roman world. You, of course, know the truth. It was a bit of both. It was a grand gesture of love and a statement of power, but it was also a reckless act that infuriated the Roman Senate and plunged the Roman world into a final bloody civil war. The war of words between Octavian and Antony escalates. Octavian, with the support of the Senate, declares war not on Antony but on you. The war is officially a war against a foreign queen who has supposedly bewitched a Roman general and is trying to destroy the Republic. It is a brilliant political move, a way of turning a Roman civil war into a holy crusade against a foreign enemy. You are now the target, the villain, the symbol of everything that is wrong with the world. Antony, in a final act of devotion, publicly divorces Octavia, Octavian's sister, a move that is a final and total rejection of the Roman world. He is a man who is now a part of your world, a man who is now a king, not a Roman. He is a man who is ready to fight for you, for your kingdom, for your love, and for your new empire. The stage is set for a final catastrophic conflict, a war that will decide the fate of 2 empires, a war that will decide the fate of your love, and a war that will decide the fate of your life. The world is watching, waiting to see who will win this final bloody battle for the heart and soul of the Roman world. The world is a stage, and the final act is about to begin. The Roman Senate, under the cunning manipulation of Octavian, has declared war on you, not on Antony. You are no longer just a queen. You are a target, a symbol of everything that the Roman world fears and loathes. The war is a public relations masterpiece for Octavian, a way of framing a civil war as a righteous crusade against a foreign enemy, a kind of dark comedy of errors with the highest possible stakes. Antony, in a final act of defiant love, publicly divorces his Roman wife Octavia, a move that is a final and total break with the Roman world. He is a man who is now fighting for you, for your kingdom, for your new empire. The two sides gather their forces. Octavian, a man of cold, calculating ambition, is in command of a powerful navy and a disciplined, loyal army. He is a man who is a master of logistics, a man who knows how to win a war. Antony, a man of charisma and immense military experience, is in command of an equally powerful navy and a battle-hardened army. He is a man who is a hero to his soldiers, a man who is a master of the battlefield. The two sides are evenly matched, and the world holds its breath, waiting to see who will win this final bloody battle. The battle is set for a place called Actium, a quiet bay on the western coast of Greece. The date is September 2nd, 31 BC. The world is watching. The Roman world, the Egyptian world, the Greek world, they are all waiting to see who will emerge victorious. The battle is a naval one, a clash of immense ships and brave men. The ships are massive, floating fortresses, and the battle is a brutal, chaotic dance of death. A mainstream historical fact of this battle is its unexpected and catastrophic outcome. The battle starts as a stalemate. The two sides are evenly matched, and the fighting is fierce. But then, in a move that historians still debate and that you, of course, remember with a clarity that chills you to the bone, you make a decision. With your royal squadron of 60 ships, you break through the Roman lines and flee the battle. Antony, seeing you go, follows you, abandoning his army and his fleet. It is a move that is seen as a betrayal, an act of cowardice, a final and total disaster. A quirky historical tidbit about this battle is the Roman poet Virgil's version of events. In his epic poem, the Aeneid, he portrays you as a mad, hysterical queen, a woman who is driven by her irrational passions to flee the battle and to lead Antony to his ruin. It is a beautiful and a brutal piece of propaganda, a work of art that is designed to portray you not as a complex, intelligent woman, but as a kind of demonic figure, a woman who is a threat to the Roman world. It is a testament to the power of a good story, a reminder that history is not just about facts. It is about the stories that we tell about those facts. Historians still argue whether your flight was a planned retreat or an act of panic. There are those who say that you and Antony had a prearranged plan to break through the Roman lines and to make a run for it, to fight another day, to regroup in Egypt. But there are others who believe that you were simply afraid, a woman who was a soldier but not a general, a woman who was overwhelmed by the sheer scale and brutality of the battle. You, of course, know the truth. It was a bit of both. It was a planned retreat, but it was also a desperate act of survival. You were a woman who was a queen, a mother, and a survivor, and you knew with a certainty that chills you to the bone that your survival was the most important thing. The battle is a total rout. Antony's fleet, abandoned by its commander, is defeated. His army, demoralized and leaderless, surrenders. The battle is a complete and total victory for Octavian. He is no longer just a Roman general. He is now the master of the Roman world, the new Caesar. You and Antony are on the run, on your way back to Egypt, a place that no longer feels like a safe harbour. You are a queen, but you are a queen who has just lost a kingdom. You are a lover, but you are a lover who has just led her partner to a crushing defeat. You are a woman who has survived a civil war, a siege, and a family feud, but you are a woman who is now facing the end. The Battle of Actium is not just a battle. It is a turning point, a moment that changes the course of history. It is a moment that seals your fate, a moment that seals the fate of your lover, and a moment that seals the fate of your kingdom. The war is over, and you have lost. You are back in Alexandria, but it is not the same city. The streets are quiet, the people are silent, and the air is thick with a sense of dread. The news of Actium has reached your kingdom, and the people know, with a cold certainty, that the end is near. You are a queen, but you are a queen without a kingdom. You are a woman who has survived a civil war, a siege, and a family feud, but you are a woman who is now facing an enemy far more dangerous than any you have ever faced before, the cold, calculating ambition of Octavian. Antony, your lover, your partner, your king, is a broken man. He is no longer the charismatic general who charmed the world. He is a man who is consumed by guilt and by a sense of utter defeat. He is a man who has lost everything: his army, his fleet, his honour, and his love. He is a man who is a shadow of his former self, a man who is now a prisoner in his own kingdom, a man who is waiting for the inevitable. You try to console him, to give him hope, to tell him that all is not lost. But you know, with a certainty that chills you to the bone, that it is. Octavian, meanwhile, is on the march. He is a man who is a master of logistics, a man who is a master of the battlefield, a man who is a master of propaganda. He is coming for you, and he is coming for Antony, and he is coming for your kingdom. He is not just a general. He is a man who is a kind of avenging angel, a man who is coming to finish the job that his father, Caesar, started. He is a man who is coming to bring order to the world, and he sees you and Antony as a symbol of chaos, a symbol of a world that is no longer Roman. A mainstream historical fact of this final period is the series of desperate and futile last stands. Antony, in a last desperate attempt to regain some semblance of his former glory, leads a small loyal force against Octavian's army outside of Alexandria. It is a brief and a bloody skirmish, a final futile gesture of defiance. He is a man who is fighting for his honour, a man who is fighting for his love, a man who is fighting for a world that no longer exists. He is a man who is utterly defeated. The final act of the tragedy unfolds with a final, heartbreaking act of betrayal. Antony receives a false report that you are dead, a false report that is meant to make him despair. He is a man who has lost everything, and he believes that he has lost the only thing that mattered. In a final act of desperation, he falls on his own sword, a final tragic gesture of a man who has lost his will to live. But he does not die immediately. He is carried to you, a dying man, a man who is clinging to life just long enough to see you one last time. It is a moment of immense tragedy, a moment of immense sorrow, a moment that is the end of a love story that has changed the world. A quirky historical tidbit from this time is the fact that you, a queen, a living goddess, were the one who had to lift his dying body up into a mausoleum, a physical act of immense love and immense sorrow. It is a testament to your strength, your will, your devotion. You were a woman who was a queen, a lover, a mother, and a survivor, and you were a woman who was a part of his final moments, a woman who was a witness to his death. It is a moment of immense tragedy, a moment that seals the end of a love story. Historians still argue whether Antony's death was a suicide or an act of despair. There are those who say that it was a noble and a Roman act, a way of preserving his honour in the face of defeat. But there are others who believe that it was an act of a man who was so consumed by his love for you that he could not bear to live in a world without you. You, of course, know the truth. It was a bit of both. It was an act of despair, but it was also an act of love, a final tragic gesture of a man who had lost his will to live. You are now a queen without a lover, a queen without a kingdom, a queen who is a prisoner of her own palace. Octavian is in the city, and he is a man who wants to capture you, to parade you in Rome as a trophy, a symbol of his victory. He wants to show the Roman world that he has defeated the serpent, the woman who had bewitched a Roman general and had threatened to destroy the Republic. He wants to show the world that he is the new Caesar, the new master of the Roman world. You are a woman who is not afraid to die. You are a woman who has lived a life of immense power, immense love, and immense tragedy. You are a woman who has changed the course of history, and you are a woman who will not be paraded in a Roman triumph, a woman who will not be a symbol of a Roman victory. You have a plan, a final, grand, and tragic plan. You will not be defeated. You will not be a prisoner. You will not be a trophy. You will be a queen. You will be a goddess. You will be a legend. The famous ending to your story is a quiet and a beautiful one. You arrange to be bitten by an asp, a venomous snake, a symbol of your ancient kingdom. The act is a final and a total rejection of the Roman world, a final and a total embrace of your Egyptian identity. You die as you have lived, a queen, a goddess, a woman who is utterly in control of her own destiny. Your love story is a tragedy, but your death is a testament to your will, your strength, and your unwavering belief in your own identity. You are a woman who has lost a kingdom, but you are a woman who has won a kind of immortality, a kind of legendary status that will live on forever. And so, you fade into the cool, silent night. Your world, a world of marble and mystery, of political intrigue and grand romance, is gone. The last echoes of your story soften and dissolve. The fire from the great library, the clash of swords at Actium, the whispers in the palace, they are all part of a history that is now complete. The grand drama is over, and your final, beautiful and heartbreaking choice has ensured that your legacy is entirely your own. Your story is now woven into the fabric of time, a tapestry of love, power, and defiance.